everyone, I'm Witch Hazel, and today we are chatting about nature's magic and why witches embrace it for extraordinary powers. Okay, so to begin with, just about anyone who has ever heard of witchcraft has heard it described as a nature religion. The religion part is incorrect. You can find my rationale on that in a previous video I'll link for you. But the nature association part is very much correct. Nature, working with it, seeing ourselves as a part of it, is the heart and soul of witchcraft. In my own experience, witchcraft was the only spiritual practice that I could make sense of. It incorporated tangible examples of divine power in the form of the natural elements around me, rather than insisting that I blindly believe in an invisible deity living somewhere far away from and outside of me. There is a sacred bond between witches and nature. Nature is the source of our power, and this belief stems from the earliest known pagan practices. Early human beings may not have been aware of their own innate divine power, but they were certainly able to see it in the world around them. Anyone who has witnessed the destructive power of a storm or understands our complete dependence on Mother Nature for food and shelter will have at least a reasonable appreciation for this bond. Over time, it's even developed into the idea that witches have an obligation to be stewards of nature, to do what we can in the name of environmentalism and sustainability. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's look at how nature inspires our magical practice. First, there's the age-old concept of the elements: earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. This goes back to observances of both destructive and sustaining abilities in nature. By incorporating these elements or symbols of the elements into our daily practice, we add a little bit of their power to our intent. This makes our magical work more effective and reminds us that we're not on our own in this world. We're a part of nature too. Some common ways witches like to work with the elements are grounding exercises and use of herbs, plants, soil, or crystals for earth magic, incorporating water into a spell or ritual, use of candles, hearth or bonfires, and the use of breathwork, wind chimes, or incense to represent air. Then there's the seasons. Again, a very obvious display of the power of nature. In order to survive, early man had to be in tune with the seasons. He had to know when to head to different areas to find food or avoid the worst weather. With the advent of agriculture, he had to be even more aware of the best times to plant and harvest. And since we were all still at the mercy of the seasons and disease and pests, we eventually developed our Wheel of the Year. This pagan calendar not only noted the change in seasons, but encouraged creating celebration and ritual to try and convince Mother Nature to be good to us and let us survive just a little bit longer. There are also more mysterious connections to the seasons. The transition from one season to the next are often the times felt to be energetically different. We call this the thinning of the veil, when the spirit world feels somehow much closer to us than usual. I haven't researched this at all, but my best guess is there really is some sort of energetic shift as the Earth alters position in its orbit and the magnetic fields adjust. If anyone watching this has better knowledge on this front, please help clarify this point in the comments. I'm curious too. Let us know. Speaking of clarity, if you're enjoying this video and want to catch additional information on both the ways of witchcraft and developing a strong spiritual connection to the divine, now is a prime moment to subscribe to the channel and make sure that you don't miss any of that upcoming information. And I'm going to use that as a very cheesy way to refocus my final point about the seasons, which is working with the moon phases. The relationship between the moon and the tides has been observed by humans since ancient times. And of course, it was shrouded in a sense of mystery and awe until we figured out why the moon held such sway over the water. Even now, though, hundreds of years after coming to grips with gravitational pull, the beauty and the power of the moon is just awe-inspiring, and we are still more than happy to incorporate some of that power into our workings in an attempt to make them more effective. Can you see a common thread here? I mean, throughout history, humans have understood that working in tandem with nature makes their own work more effective. Recognizing the power in nature and trying to harness it makes us feel more powerful. It's unfortunate that this has been taken to the extreme with human beings trying to assert dominion over all of nature, but witchcraft takes us back to our roots, that awe and reverence for nature. To this day, people who identify as witches and pagans prefer to practice their craft outdoors whenever possible. We want to feel the grass beneath our feet, feel the wind on our faces, and the warmth of the sun, of the fire. We are reminded at first that we are tiny and insignificant in the grand scheme of things. But then second, we're reminded that if we connect to one another and to our Mother Earth, we are every bit as powerful as she is, because we're part of her. We live in her and she lives in us. And that sense of expansiveness is what keeps the witches tied to nature in their magic. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and that it helped explain a little bit of why witches are so adamant about nature and incorporating it into our practice. The seasons, the elements, the moon, they are all cornerstones of witchy practice and the starting point for new and experienced witches alike. I hope you'll join me again for the next video, where I'll be sharing even more magical and spiritual insight. Until then, everyone, blessed be.